So the United States tells the Israelis, listen, we're not going to get involved in a direct war with Iran. That's up to you, even though we know that you can't do it alone. Oh, and by the way, you're so scared of Turkey, and Turkey's in Syria. Oh, by the way, we've just begun withdrawing troops from Syria. Yeah, this is happening, everyone. I've been talking about this for a while, and we see it happening. America's withdrawal out of Syria. Now, granted, this is a gradual withdrawal. It's a small withdrawal, but nonetheless, it is beginning. And I've talked about this, and I did a video about this recently, and I said, if America pulls out of Syria, Israel will be terrified, because that will mean Turkey being the dominant power in that country. And Israel doesn't want that. So much for Greater Israel, everyone. So much for Greater Israel. The United States has started drawing down hundreds of troops from northeastern Syria, a reflection. Ooh, I love the words that are being used here. I love the words here. A reflection of the shifting security environment in the country since the fall of President Bashar al-Assad in December, but also a move that carries risks. The military is shuttering 3 of its 8 small operating bases in the country's northeast, reducing troop levels to about 1,400 from 2,000. So it's not a huge withdrawal, but it's a withdrawal nonetheless. It's a reflection of the zeitgeist. And what have I said many times? You can't beat the vibes. You can't fight the vibes. And what are the vibes telling us? What do the vibes bespeak to us? The vibes bespeak non-interventionism, isolationism. Okay, so it's a small withdrawal, but that's the beginning. Because what is the most popular opinion right now? You guys want to know what the most popular opinion is right now? Look at the debate between Douglas Murray and Dave Smith. I haven't finished watching it. I've finished over an hour of it so far. Been watching it little by little for a number of days now. And Douglas Murray is a typical neocon, very pro-Ukraine, anti-Assad, the whole thing, very pro-NATO guy. Dave Smith, very critical of NATO, very critical of Israel. Did not support the ousting of Bashar al-Assad. And so, what did Dave Smith tell Murray? He told Murray, well, Israel's doing war crimes, Israel has done all these terrible things, etc., etc., etc. Murray says, actually, no, Israel's the good guy, Ukraine is the good guy, etc., etc. And read the comments. Read the comments under the video. It has, what, several million views already, I think? Last I checked, I think. Read the comments. How many pro-Murray comments do you find? Not very many. Same thing with Twitter. If you go on Twitter/X and look up the debate, you'll see not a whole lot of support for Murray. You have your Hosperists, of course, who are supporting Murray because Murray is he's an asset for Israel. I don't mean that in the sense that he's getting Israeli money. I just mean that he is definitely considered a benefit for Israel, propaganda-wise. He's very popular. He's got a big audience. But I have a feeling that Murray's popularity is going to dwindle. Now, here's the thing about Douglas Murray. Here we go. We're about to segue off here, boys. Here's the thing about Douglas Murray, guys. Douglas Murray is a neocon. He's been around for a very long time. I first heard about Douglas Murray back in 2016. And Douglas Murray was very critical of the migration policy of the EU, which, I mean, that hasn't changed at all. Very pro-Israel, pro-Sodom. And he hasn't really changed at all. The guy hasn't changed at all. And Murray, he was popular in 2016, but he sort of just, I don't know, people stopped talking about him for a while. And I stopped hearing about him. And like Norman Finkelstein revived in fame after October the 7th, all of a sudden, Douglas Murray pops up again. And he's very popular. All of a sudden, blew up in popularity, millions of views on YouTube. And I said, this guy wasn't really around for a while, and then all of a sudden he pops back up. Why is that? Ooh, why? I think he was needed. I think he was needed for the Hospira. But just as Ben Shapiro has been declining, I think that you will start to see Murray dwindling in fame. Why is that? Because of the diminishing support for Israel. And I think that this debate that he just did with Dave Smith is a mark of the downfall of Murray. Because a lot of people are going on to the side of Smith. A lot of people are going on to the side of Tucker Carlson. A lot of people are going on to the side of Candace Owens. A lot of people are going on to the side of Daryl Cooper. A lot of people are going on to the side of Eldridge Colby and the like. The list goes on and on and on. Why? Because that's what's popular. This is what the zeitgeist is going to. This is what the zeitgeist currently is. And you can't stop the vibes. You can talk against the vibes all you want. You can't stop what's coming. It's not all on you. That's vanity, to reference the film No Country for Old Men, which is a great movie. The pro-Israel sentiment is declining, and really the only thing that stands between pro-Israel sentiment dying and pro-Israel sentiment remaining alive is the boomers. And the boomers are now very old. And as the natural order demands, we're all going to die. And so the boomers will eventually die out, just like the generation before them eventually died out. And what happens? What's going to happen when that happens? The whole pro-Israel stuff's going to die with it. And do you know what else is going to die with the whole pro-Israel thing? It's going to be all the big mega churches. You know, the big mega church culture that's been in America for a long time? That's a dying trend. And the mega churches in America have been a major contributing factor to spreading pro-Israel rhetoric. Well, the mega churches of America will eventually be like the malls. Malls have died. Well, they're dying. They're getting pretty close to death. And so the mega church, I think, is going to be just like the mall. It's going to be a dead thing. And they're probably going to convert a lot of these mega churches into, I don't know, hospitals. I mean, look at a mega church, right? Big building or multiple buildings, big massive parking lot, perfect spot to build a hospital. And the infrastructure is already there, more or less. Perfect place to build a hospital. So the world is changing. You know, that's inevitable. But I think what we're seeing right now with Hegseth, Colby, these types of guys, with this whole America First trend, I think it's just the zeitgeist, and you can't beat it. You can't beat it. And the Hospirists are trying to do, you know, their final stand, and I think eventually they're going to fail. That's what I think. If you look at, for example, any debate between Norman Finkelstein and anyone, any debate between Norman Finkelstein and a pro-Israel person, look at the comments. Always the comments are supportive of Finkelstein. Always the comments are supportive of Dave Smith. Why? It's happening. It's happening, guys. And so the America First ideology declares what? No more wars in the Middle East. No more wars means no more wars. No war with Iran. No troops in Syria. Bring them all home. We have too many problems on the southern border. Put those soldiers on the southern border where they can actually protect America from cartels and MS-13 criminals. That's the sentiment that's dominating right now. And if that wasn't the sentiment, then Donald Trump would have never won the popular vote. Kamala Harris would have won the popular vote. But that's not what the case is. So Donald Trump begins troop withdrawal from Syria. Trump is increasingly at odds with allies in Europe and the Middle East that have moved to shore up the new Syrian government. Remember, I did a video about this not too long ago. The French and the Germans were getting giddy about al-Shara taking over Syria, and they were happy about the fact that Assad was ousted, and Trump was happy about it, and he said, remember what Trump said recently? He said, Turkey, he told Erdogan, Erdogan, congratulations, you did what no one else could do. You took over Syria. Congratulations. Why would Trump say that? Why? Because this is what America wants. And what does Turkey want? Turkey says, America, you better withdraw troops out of Syria. We don't want those Americans here. We can take care of Syria without you. We'll be just fine. Just fine. And then Turkey says, remember what Hakan Fidan said? The foreign minister of Turkey? Look at what he said recently. He said, Israel just can't go around bombing shit in Syria. We can't just allow this to happen. We're the controllers of Syria. This is bullshit. And now you read about withdrawal out of Syria. Oh, and what happened with the Kurds? Remember that? Turkey hates the PKK. They've been in a years-long war with the PKK. Tens of thousands of people have been killed in this war. And what happened? The Syrian Democratic Forces, the SDF, which is really just it's really just a Kurdish force. Well, what happened? Turkey said what? Syrian Democratic Forces are no different from PKK. And the SDF is very active in Syria. And we have control over the Idlib province. We're fighting the SDF. And we're fighting the PKK. The SDF better back down. We don't want the Kurds fighting us in Syria. We don't want to have to deal with Kurdish insurgents in Syria. We don't want to deal with that. And what happened? There was a deal that was made. This has never happened before. The leader of the PKK from prison told his men, drop your guns and stop fighting Turkey. The war is over. What? Yeah. And then what happened not too long after that? Haaretz published an article and said, all that is required for Turkey to do is just to make a deal with the SDF in Syria. Now that the PKK leader has surrendered effectively, all that's left for Turkey to do is just to make a deal with the SDF in Syria. And then guess what? Turkey can say, we're not at war with the Kurds, because America is in Syria for what reason? To help the Kurds, right? So Turkey says, we have no problem with the Kurds. We're at peace with the Kurds. Bye-bye, America. You don't have to be here anymore. And so then what happens? Turkey makes a deal with the SDF. And the SDF agrees. And the deal now is that the SDF has to integrate itself into the Syrian armed forces. Why did this happen all of a sudden? I think that Trump has a hand in this. I think that Trump wants to have a reason to give the power to Turkey, to give Syria over to Turkey. And so that's why you hear about this deal between the PKK and Turkey. That's why you hear about this deal between the SDF and Turkey. So now Turkey has the green light to say, no, you don't have to worry about the Kurds. We're friends now. You don't have to worry about the Kurds, America. ISIS, we can handle that. Don't worry about it. And now you're reading about troop withdrawal out of Syria. Very interesting. Again, this could all change. The troops could come back. I'm just saying, I'm seeing a shift, just given all these various events. So it says here that at an international meeting in Brussels last month, a mid-level Trump administration official handed Syria's new foreign minister a list of 8 confidence-building steps. So basically, they told al-Shara, okay, you got to do these certain things. I don't know, better rights for minorities, etc., etc. And it says here that a copy of which was seen by the Washington Post, includes allowing the U.S. government to conduct anti-terrorism operations. So the Americans told al-Shara, you have to allow us to do operations in Syria. In other words, we still want to call the shots. But they still want to give more power to the Turks, because they want to use the Turks as a proxy to do the work for them. So it says here that even as the administration has started removing a portion of the U.S. presence in Syria, a move first reported by the New York Times, the list of demands also instructed Damascus issue a formal declaration of support for Operation Inherent Resolve, the mission of what have been roughly 2,000 American troops. So in other words, the Americans told al-Shara, we just want you to pay lip service and say you support America's presence in Syria, so we can say, okay, you're friends with us, we're an ally, blah, 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 blah. But again, from what I've been seeing, from what Trump has been saying, even going back to what Trump said in his first term, Looks like the Trump administration wants to give Syria over to Turkey, mainly to Turkey, at least. And Trump said that Syria is its own mess. They've got enough messes over there. They don't need us involved in every one. This is what Trump said. In other words, have Turkey take over Syria. Who cares? So it says here that while a full drawn down of U.S. troops in Syria is not currently being contemplated, a defense official said the plans were to reduce and consolidate the U.S. presence. Stuff was already moving, although they likely won't announce anything before the Iran talks, the official said. Referring to negotiations between Tehran and Washington over Iran's nuclear program that began last week. A U.S. official who focuses on the region said that there was an expectation that the administration would reduce the number of troops to a bare minimum. So in other words, this U.S. official, speaking anonymously, is saying, listen, we expect that the U.S. is going to reduce the number of troops to a bare minimum. That means something a lot smaller than 1,400. He said, I think we're going to go down to one very small place in the northeast. There you go. They want to reduce the size significantly, the size of the American military presence in Syria significantly. This is not helping Israel. This is only helping Turkey. That's it. So, I did a video about this not too long ago, and I said, America will throw Israel under the bus. People don't believe me. They think America is just this, I guess, hardcore Zionist country. And it is, don't get me wrong, but I think we are seeing a change. In the meantime, two major regional U.S. allies in the region, Israel and Turkey, have edged closer to direct conflict as they compete for Trump's backing of their differing aims. So Turkey says, America, back us. Israel says, no, America, back us. Which one is America going to choose? Turkey or Israel? Well, if it loses Turkey, it loses control over the access from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean. And that's something that America doesn't want. As the book of Revelation says, the harlot's lovers abandon her. Turkey has numerous incentives to want to stabilize Shah's government, including the return of millions of Syrian refugees. And this is also very important for Syria because probably the most unpopular thing that Erdogan has done is allow millions of refugees into Turkey. And the presence of so many refugees has enabled or really has empowered the secular nationalists, like the members of the CHP in Turkey, to rise up against Erdogan. And the CHP party has vowed to remove Syrian refugees. They want to remove them. They want to forcefully deport them. And so a lot of Turkish people want this, and so this is giving a lot of propaganda fodder for the secular nationalists. Politically speaking, this is not really good for Erdogan. So of course, Turkey wants the refugees to leave because it's only helping to aid in the popularity or in the popularization of the secular Turkish nationalists. Plain and simple. Turkey has numerous incentives to want to stabilize Shah's government, including the return of millions of Syrian refugees, suppression of demands of Syrian Kurds for their own state on Turkey's border, or a significant role in the new Syria. A more dominant place in the region, that's what Turkey wants, and investment opportunities for Ankara's flailing economy. So yes, Turkey's economy is suffering, and they want to be able to invest in Syria because that's going to help them get more money. But they also want to be the dominant power. And really, a lot of this is ideological. They want to revive Ottomanism. And if they can revive their empire, I mean, that's going to get the whole world to take Turkey seriously. So Israel is an impediment to this aspiration. And so they want to crush the Israelis. They want to remove Israel as a threat. As far as we know, the U.S. administration is trying to decide whether or not to stay in Syria, a Turkish official said. In conversations with U.S. officials, Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan has stressed that Damascus, with Turkey's support, can keep the Islamic State in check while eliminating the need for armed Kurdish forces. This is what I said. So the Turks are saying, America, you don't need the Kurds anymore. We got it taken care of. This is why the Turks made a deal with the SDF. This is why the Turks made a deal with the PKK. Because they want to neutralize the Kurdish cause. So now, Turkey can say, nah, who cares about the Kurds? We got Syria covered. Don't worry. ISIS, we'll fight ISIS. Don't worry about it. Netanyahu, whose relations with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan have long been strained, said during an Oval Office meeting with Trump last week that we don't want to see Syria being used by anyone, including Turkey, as a base for attacking Israel. This is what Netanyahu said. So the Israelis are terrified. Meeting with Netanyahu last week in the Oval Office, Trump told the Israeli leader that he likes Erdogan and Erdogan likes me. Any problem with Turkey, he said, I think I can solve. I mean, as long as you, Netanyahu, are reasonable. So there you have it. The Israelis are being told by the Americans what to do, and they're being told by the Americans to be reasonable.